Good morning, everyone. This is Ranger Luke. I am here at the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center. I am an Oregon State Parks Ranger, and welcome to today's episode of the Oregon Whale Watch Week 2020 Encore. It is Wednesday, April 22nd. Happy Earth Day to everyone. For the next 4 hours, we will be bringing you this live broadcast as we watch for gray whales as they migrate north along the Oregon coast. And we're also going to look at all the other cool animals that are out in front of our windows throughout the day. So for the past several weeks, we've been bringing you these virtual whale watching experiences every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from right here in beautiful Depot Bay, Oregon. And that will be the plan for several more weeks to come. We are currently documenting a huge chunk of this gray whale migration here on the Oregon coast. And to my knowledge, this is the first time there's ever been a whole live documented case like this. So it's pretty fun that we're doing this together. And over the last several weeks, over 500,000 people have tuned in to help us look for whales here on the Oregon coast. So thank you to everyone who has joined us. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're home and comfortable and doing our part to help slow the spread of this COVID-19 virus. So today we're going to be doing a few things that are a little bit different than just looking for whales. Don't get me wrong, we're going to be doing that. That's our primary goal, is to look for whales and share that with you. At 10:30 this morning, so in about half an hour, I'm going to give about a 15-minute interpretive program. We're just calling it kind of Gray Whale 101. And we will be going over the anatomy of gray whales. We'll be talking about some of the behaviors that we see while we're whale watching. And also we're going to talk about the migration pattern of these amazing animals. Gray whales are just awesome. They are so cool, and I think it's just amazing that we get to spend a few minutes with them here as they're swimming by, and we have the chance to kind of cheer them on this amazing migration. So we'll talk about that at about 10:30. And also, a little bit later, I want to talk about the iNaturalist app and the backyard BioBlitz that's happening right now. And so this is another really fun activity that you can do at your house. And it's a cool way to contribute to some real scientific studies that are happening. We're helping to contribute to a huge data set. Which is pretty awesome to be able to contribute to this kind of global knowledge base right now. So it's really, really fun. So if you can see on the cameras right now, taking a look at our weather, we have some gray skies, some pretty stormy conditions. I think our swell is about 3 to 4 feet, and already the wind is about 20 miles an hour out over the water, and so it's pretty rough. I'll be honest with you, our odds of seeing whales out several miles today is very, very low. What I'm hoping for is that at some point throughout the next 4 hours, a whale or two or more happens to come in a little closer, and we'll be able to see it if it swims right here through our bay. If you looked at our broadcast from yesterday, we were only able to spot one whale yesterday, and it was way, way out there. So I'm hoping we get lucky today and a couple whales come in a little closer for us to look at. Yesterday's feed, it was kind of cool at the end. We were able to watch a fishing boat harvesting some squid right in front of us. So that was kind of cool. You can check out, I think it's about the last hour of yesterday's broadcast. You'll be able to see that whole process happen. Pretty neat. So far today, the only real traffic I have seen or spotted from our visitor center here are the 2 U.S. Coast Guard boats have gone out to do some drills, and just to make sure that everybody is being safe out there. There are still commercial crabbing vessels and some commercial fishing boats out there, and so I'm sure they're just out there making sure everybody is being safe before this storm kind of rolls through. Today's supposed to be pretty nasty, windy, rainy all day. Tomorrow looks pretty good though. And so I think the sun is coming back tomorrow, which will be great. Great way to kind of wrap up the week here. So anyway, kind couple other things I wanted to touch on. You know, we've been bringing these live broadcasts to you because we know that a lot of people are home right now doing their part to help slow the spread of the COVID-19 virus. And we just want to say thank you so much for staying home and staying safe. Just a reminder that all of the Oregon State Parks recreational campgrounds and facilities and visitor centers, they're all closed right now. And so we're asking you to respect those closures, and we want to say thank you to everybody who has. A lot of Oregonians live pretty close to a park, and it's really, really hard. Where I live, I really want to go walk on the beach, but we just can't right now. And so thank you again. Everybody's doing their part to help slow this pandemic down. But if you want to learn about all the latest updates and potential reopening dates, go check out the Oregon State Park website. That's www.oregonstateparks.org. You can read all the latest and greatest about the Oregon State Parks and what's going on and how we're preparing for reopening. We will, and just kind of talks about some timelines and all that kind of good stuff. Also, while you're at that Oregon State Parks website, you can check out our visitor center. We actually just finished installing, well, about a month and a half ago, a whole new interpretive displays exhibit here in our visitor center, and it is beautiful. And I am very, very, very excited to share this with all of you in person here, but not yet, of course. And so go check out our website. You can learn about our visitor center, where we are located here in Depot Bay, and maybe you can plan a visit to come see us sometime later in the summer and come see whales and come get your sticker from me in person. So yeah, it should be a good day. I'm excited. We'll do a few fun things. I'm excited to bring you into the visitor center a little bit at about 10:30 while we do this little interpretive program. But until then, let me kind of go back over to the half-mile buoy, and we'll point the camera in that direction and see if we cannot get lucky here and have a whale come in nice and close this morning. You can see the 1 mile buoy out there right now. So our visibility is decent, but you can also see all these white caps in the wind that we're already dealing with. So let's go ahead and zoom in nice and tight here on our half-mile buoy, and we'll watch for some spouts from these gray whales. If you've been with us the last few weeks, you know that is kind of a hot spot for whales that come into the bay. A lot of them will spout next to that buoy for some reason. So let me take a quick look at the chat real quick. Good morning, Nancy. Hi, Chris. Good morning, Roadwing in Spokane. And Christy on our daily lunch hour, enjoying whale watching from Eastern Oregon. Good morning, Christy. And Brenna, good morning from Yakima. And Nancy says, a wild wave watching day. Yep. And Megan, also in Spokane. Good morning to the Eastern Washington folks. I'll be honest, I am an EWU Eagle, so go Eags. Lived in Spokane for a long time. Spokane is beautiful. Very, very few whales in that part of the world, for sure. So we're happy to bring you out here to the Oregon coast. Should be a great day. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back in just a few minutes or as soon as I see a whale. Good morning again, everyone. This is Luke, Park Ranger here at the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center, beautiful Oregon State Park Visitor Center. See a lot of folks jumping on the stream here this morning. Good morning to a lot of you, wherever you're from. We've got Mixu in Idaho. Catherine, good morning. Good morning. Fufu and friends from Hermiston, Oregon. Angela is in Portland. Brianna is in Maryland. Melanie is in Idaho. Nancy is in West Virginia. Welcome. And Jennifer C. is in Minnesota. Ann is in New York. Jan H. is in Glen Eden Beach. And Angela says, welcome to the left coast, East Coasters. Yeah, welcome to everyone, wherever you're from. What's really cool is I can, like once a week, I'll go in and look at the analytics to all these YouTube videos. And we have people from all around the world who have been tuning in and looking at whales here with us. So it's a lot of fun. You know, I know that a lot of us are practicing some very good social distancing right now and just really kind of limiting our adventures outside, I guess you can say. But every day there is a whole group of us here hanging out together and looking for whales. And we're having a really cool shared experience here together from all around the planet. So we're happy to have you here with us. If you're just joining us, you can see that it's kind of a stormy day in Depot Bay. I've got the camera kind of pointed at the south end of our bay right now, just kind of showing you some of the beautiful waves, while I am watching very intently out near that half-mile buoy, looking to see if I can't spot any whales here this morning. In about 15 minutes, I'm going to do a short interpretive program. I'm going to bring the camera here inside our visitor center, and we're going to talk all about these gray whales that we're looking for. We're going to imagine that we can pull them out of the water and take a close look at them. We'll talk about all of their anatomy, and we'll talk about some of the really cool behaviors we get to see. And finally, we'll talk for a few minutes about this amazing migration that these whales are doing right now. So we're happy to have everyone here with you, and excited for what should be another great day. Oh, got a few more people here. Steve is in Salem. Good morning, Steve. Christina, hello from Italy. Good morning, or good evening, whichever. Welcome. So happy you're here. And hi, Pedal PDX, back from here in Portland. So hope everybody is comfortable, got a cup of coffee, or hanging out, ready to look for some whales with us today. So we'll be back in just a few minutes, or as soon as I see another whale. Well, good morning again, everybody. This is Luke, Park Ranger with Oregon State Parks, here at the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center. So I got the camera zoomed in right now on our sea wall, looking at a few of the birds that are perched there right now. Actually, it looks like there are 2 species of cormorants there right now. So bonus points if anybody can name those 2 different species of cormorants. And write that down because we're going to need that information here a little bit later when we talk about this BioBlitz that's happening right now. So pretty cool. Getting some neat birds here so far. If you're just joining us, we've not spotted any whales yet. It's a fairly stormy day here on the central Oregon coast, but we're going to be here looking. We will be giving it a shot. My hope is that a whale comes in a little closer today than they did yesterday. The only whale we spotted yesterday was way, way, way out, basically on the edge of what we could see with the camera. But 2 days ago, I was up here on Monday, getting a few things ready for this week, and I did see a whale right at that half-mile buoy, so I'm saying that there is a chance. So let's go ahead. I'm going to zoom the camera back out to this buoy right now and leave it just kind of centered right there in your screen. And let's work together and look for these spouts. Today you can see there's a lot of wind and it's making a lot of white caps on the water, or that white kind of frothy top of the wave. But if there's a whale came up pretty close to that buoy, we would still see it, believe it or not. That spout from these gray whales is still going to go vertical. It's going to go straight up, where all of these other waves and white caps are going sideways or kind of horizontal. So we could still see one here if it pops up pretty close. If you're just joining us, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to begin a little interpretive program. I'm going to bring you inside the visitor center here and show you our whale models. And I've got some cool pictures I want to share with you of some neat behaviors that we see throughout the year. And we're going to talk about some of the really fascinating parts of these gray whales. So let me just leave the camera here for about 5 more minutes. And then I will bring you here into the building as we do that program. Let me look at the comment section real quick. Hi, Katrina in Pennsylvania. Joel says, so awesome to watch the ocean. Yep, very, very cool. And Nassalt says, volunteering with Oregon State Parks years ago is one of my best memories. Thank you so much. And I should mention that this is National Volunteer Recognition Month, or Week, so thank you to all of the volunteers. If you volunteered here with Oregon State Parks, either now or in the past, thank you so much. Tomorrow's broadcast is actually going to be 100% dedicated to volunteers here at the Oregon State Parks. We're going to be doing some fun trivia, and I have our statewide volunteer coordinator is going to phone call in, and she'll be giving a little talk, and we'll be doing some fun stuff tomorrow in recognition of all of our amazing volunteers. And Clara says, good morning from the Netherlands. Good morning. And Pedal PDX, yep, no whales yet today, but we're trying. And Patty says hello from Silverdale, Washington. So good morning again, everybody. I see we've got a lot of folks here with us this morning. It should be a fun day of looking for whales together. So I'll be back in about 5 minutes, and we will start our little talk inside the building here. All right. Well, good morning again, everyone. This is Luke, Park Ranger here with Oregon State Parks at the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring you in the building here a little bit. And while we're waiting for some whales to show up here for us, I want to take a few minutes and do a little interpretive lesson. We'll just call it Gray Whale 101. And so I will be keeping one eye out the window, and I'll also be chatting with you here. And I want to just take a few minutes, like I said, and we'll cover some of the basics of these gray whales. And these, again, are the most common whale that we see here along the Oregon coast. So let me make sure I got everything. I'm kind of tied to the camera here, so I can't go too far away. But here is an example of a gray whale. This is going to be our most common whale on the Oregon coast. Now, if we could, in our imaginations, just pull one out of the water and look at it up nice and close, this is what we would be able to see. And so I have a model of an adult gray whale, and then I also have a model of a little calf, a little baby. And those are what we're going to expect to see these in the next few weeks and over the next month or so. So let's take a few minutes and talk about just the general anatomy. You can see right away they're this kind of grayish color. Now, gray whales don't actually get their names because of their color. They were actually named after a Dr. Gray. So there's a cool little piece of trivia there for you. And their general size, a gray whale when it's fully grown from tip to tail, a female could be about 45 feet long. And she could weigh around 40 tons. That's about 80,000 pounds. That's a big number. How much is 80,000 pounds? It's really kind of hard to give an exact answer to that. But the analogy that we use a lot is a school bus. A lot of people have seen a school bus, or maybe you've even ridden around in a school bus before. And so next time you're parked next to a school bus, you can take a look and think like, oh, that's about the same size as a gray whale. Here, they are scale. This is a little bit smaller, but they're pretty good size. They're about the same dimensions around as well. So pretty good size animals cruising around through the water. Now, the babies obviously are a lot smaller when they're born. When a baby gray whale is born, a calf it's called, they are already about 2,000 pounds. They weigh 1 ton already, day one of their life. And when they're first born, they're about 15 feet long. So pretty good sized little babies, if you ask me. And so you can see they also have some very cool little coloration. Each one has its own unique pattern. Let me see if I can get it to focus on this whale and not my shirt. There we go. There's the little baby right there. They're so cute. And I actually have a little picture of one. Let me try to grab you here. So one of the very first things after a baby gray whale is born is the mother will hold it up on the surface to help it breathe. And so here is a photo of a baby gray whale, and its mother is actually showing it off to a boat full of tourists. And this is actually kind of common down in Mexico, and so it's really, really cool. Maybe you have had the opportunity to go down there. I know that I am waiting for my chance, but I am definitely going to go down to these breeding lagoons. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. That little calf, you can see this one even has a little spot on its back right here. That's just natural pigmentation. Again, all of the gray whales have a little bit different coloration, but there's something on that, I should say this baby is lacking something that mother has. And I don't know if you can see it on the photo very well. But one of the other unique things about gray whales that helps us identify them is all of these barnacles that grow on them throughout their whole life. And so as a gray whale stays in the water, more and more barnacles will grow on it its whole life, and we'll start to see these unique kind of barnacle patterns. So pretty cool. Gray whales have 2 eyes, one there, one over here. Each one of their eyes is roughly the size of an orange, and so, you know, pretty good size. Their eyes are designed to see underwater, of course. They actually have a mucus layer over the top of them. It helps protect them from drying out in the salt water. And so it's kind of a blurry image. If they look up out of the water, it's kind of hazy for them, but under the water, it's pretty good. It's pretty perfect for looking around under the water. Now, where the gray whales spend most of their life, the water is very murky. So there might only be just a few feet of visibility anyway, so they don't use their eyesight a whole lot when they're navigating, all that kind of good stuff. So if we look on top of their head, they have two blowholes. This is their nostrils right on top of their head. And each one of those is pretty good size as well. It's about that big around when they're open. And they use that to exchange all of the oxygen in their lungs. Gray whales have two lungs, just like us. But when you and I take a big breath, so let's all take a big breath, you know, we can hold about as much air as in a basketball in our lungs there, so not very much. But when a gray whale takes a big breath, they have two lungs, but each one of their lungs is bigger than your refrigerator in your house. It's a huge amount of air. And so they're able to hold their breath for a super long time if they wanted to. About 30 minutes would be the max for a gray whale holding its breath underwater. So I think I tested myself once. I could hold my breath for about a minute. I mean, I was struggling at that point. But you think about it, 30 minutes of holding your breath. That's just incredible. So if we look again at our whale model, they've got these two fins right here. These are called the pectoral fins. They're attached to their pectoral muscles. And they use these front ones just for kind of steering and orienting their body a little bit. They don't use them they're not like doggy paddling or anything through the water. These are just what they use to kind of move around. A really cool thing about these fins, if we were able to take away all the skin and all the muscle, all the blubber, we would see the exact same bones that you and I have in our hand, just in their flippers. Pretty amazing. I mean, gray whales are mammals. We are mammals. We have a lot of the same parts. We have a lot in common. We just use them a little bit different way. So let's keep moving on down the whale here. So gray whales don't have any kind of a fin that a lot of people associate with whales. This area of the gray whale is just called the dorsal hump instead. And so no fin, just a little hump. And that's one of the easiest way when I'm watching for whales out here and I see a dive. If I see a fin of any kind, I know that that's not a gray whale. That's some other species of whale. Because gray whales, again, do not have any kind of a fin right here. If we look a little bit further down this model, we see we do have these kind of bumps on their tail. And these are called just the ridges or the knuckles of a gray whale. The knuckles is kind of their nickname. It kind of looks like the knuckles on your hand, you know, I guess. That's what they say. And so the last part of this animal, of course, is the tail. But we're going to be scientists today, so we're going to call it the fluke. The fluke is this part of the whale right here. And so a gray whale fluke, if you were able to stand it on end to end from a full-grown whale, would be 10 feet. And so a lot of people have seen a basketball hoop. A basketball hoop in your gym is 10 feet tall. Or maybe you've got one in your driveway that you're getting a lot of use out of right now. 10 feet tall from tip to tip. And so this is the main propulsion device for these animals as they're swimming through the water. Remember, it's not these front flippers here. No doggy paddling if you're a whale. You're using this really big, powerful muscle that's designed to move you forward. Pretty cool. So gray whale tails are very symmetrical, I should say. They don't always have a unique coloration pattern to them. And so a lot of folks are familiar with humpback whales, and underneath their tail, they each have a unique tail pattern that scientists use to identify them throughout their life. But gray whales don't really have that, and so it's not used for identification purposes. They do use it kind of, but it's not the primary way that gray whales are identified in research. One other thing I want to kind of show you is if we look at their head, it's very angular, it's very pointed. And this is actually because of the way that they eat. Gray whales are actually kind of bottom feeders. And so let's pretend that my arm is the bottom of the ocean here, and a gray whale is hungry. And so it's going to come in, and they're going to spout, 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 and then they'll dive down to the bottom of the sea floor. And now their head is actually designed at that angle so that they can roll on their side and scoop up the seafloor sediment. And they're actually inhaling like a little bit of sediment and mud and all of the tiny little critters that are in the seafloor mud or the bottom. Usually amphipods and other little crustaceans, just tiny little stuff. So they'll actually kind of sift through the water like this, right on the bottom of the seafloor, and they're actually sucking up all that good stuff in there. And that's the primary way that they eat. They are the only whales that do that in the whole world. They're the only kind of whales that feed on the bottom. Most other whales are filtering out the water higher up in the water column, so somewhere in the mid to upper level. But it's kind of a unique thing that we see with gray whales. One of the ways that we know that they do that is throughout a gray whale's life, they'll get all these huge scars and scratches on the side of their face where they've been like bumping on the bottom. Another cool way that we know that they're feeding like that, gray whales will grow a lot of barnacles, typically on the left side of their face, but on the right side of their face there will be way fewer barnacles, and that's again because they're kind of scraping them off as they swim, and they're scraping the bottom of the water there. And it's assumed that some of them actually go blind in their right eye. They'll see cuts and lacerations in that right eye as the whale ages a lot of times. Sometimes scientists will document that it appears that that whale is blind, either a cloudy lens or something like that. But pretty cool. So they suck up the mud and eat all the good stuff out of there, which kind of gets us into some of the behaviors. And so I should say, if you have questions as we're going, go ahead and type those in the chat box right here. And at the end, I'll kind of look through them, and I'll be sure to answer any questions that I have missed throughout the presentation here. So I think that about covers it with the anatomy. Let me make sure I got everything. Ears. Oh, I didn't talk about ears. Gray whales do have a couple little ear holes. They're usually kind of right back here behind the eye a little bit. They don't have like an external ear flap like you and I do. It's just a little hole. And that's pretty cool. They can hear pretty well. You know, the ocean, the water is a very good sound conductor. That also kind of takes me to their vocalization. Gray whales don't talk a whole lot, so they don't communicate to each other a whole lot throughout their day-to-day lives. They're usually solitary animals, remember, and so they might make little grunts and noises here and there, but they don't sing like the beautiful humpback whale songs that those animals sing to each other. Same thing like orcas or killer whales, they talk a lot, right? They're working together to capture their prey. Where gray whales, because they're filter feeders, they filter the water out by themselves most of the time. They don't talk a whole lot. And I just realized I forgot a really important part. Let's talk about what's in their mouth. The baleen right there. So gray whales don't have teeth. They don't catch like seals or salmon or anything. They eat plankton. And so let's talk about that baleen. And I actually have a sample of what they eat here when they're here in Depot Bay. So let me set my gray whale down for a second and grab my baleen sample. So baleen whales are these filter feeding whales. You know, they filter out the water and eat the plankton or the little amphipods in the bottom. And so if we look in our whale model, there we go, on the top jaw of this animal here, come on, focus, focus, there we go. They have this plate, these rows and rows and rows of baleen. And so here's a piece of baleen from an animal that washed up just on Beverly Beach about 10 years ago. Scientists were able to go in and remove this, and now we can use it for teaching, right? Like, you can come here to our visitor center, you can see this baleen, you can touch it. It's not every day that you get to see a real piece of baleen. So here on the outside, it's pretty smooth. This material is made out of keratin. Human bodies make keratin also. If you look at your fingernails, for example, there we go, get it on the camera, focus. It's the exact same material as your keratin, as your fingernails, or the hair on your head even. So this grows their whole life, and this is how they filter out the water. Inside their mouth, you can see it's very scratchy, and there's these grooves in it. So these whales will swim through the water, and hopefully they find like a big cloud of what they're chasing, and they'll open their mouth, and then they'll close it, and then they'll take their tongue and kind of push out all the water. You know when you're a kid and you shoot water out your teeth at your friends? Maybe you still do that. I still do that. All the water will escape through these grooves right here, you can see. But any kind of a little plankton, so here's my little jar. Come on, focus, focus. These are a jar of what's called mysid shrimp. And these are their #1 food here in Depot. There we go. There's a good shot of them. So these mysid shrimp are a teeny tiny, I guess we can call them a cousin to krill. A lot of people have heard of krill before. Krill is a shrimp that swims out in the ocean. Krill is about the size of your pinky finger, maybe even a little bit bigger. So they're pretty good size. But mysids, these little things right here, they only grow to be about 1 centimeter long. And so they're like the size of a grain of rice, maybe a little bit smaller. Teeny tiny little things. But these mysids here in Depot Bay literally grow by the billions. And so in the summertime, when there are lots of mysids, there are lots of gray whales feeding right there in the water. These gray whales are able to eat 2,000 pounds of those tiny little mysid shrimp every day. It's just incredible. And so if you come see us here in the visitor center sometime, you'll see some other great examples of these mysids and how the baleen works. But pretty cool. So this is a real piece of baleen from the gray whales. Now, for thousands of years, humans used baleen before we had modern plastics. We'll go back in time, 100 years, even 200 years ago, and you were a young lady and you had a hairbrush. You can use the baleen to comb your hair, or our clothing. We would put it in our clothing to give it structure. You probably heard of like the boning in clothing before. That was to hold, your buttons or your collars, all that kind of stuff nice and straight. So humans have used baleen for a long time. It's a pretty amazing substance, so pretty cool. So let's kind of move on to our behaviors. Oh, before I do, I got one more picture I want to show you. Sorry. Here's a great example of a gray whale with an open mouth, and you can see that baleen kind of hanging off the top there. And so they have a really big mouth, and they're able to just take in a big gulp of water and mysids and all the other goodies, and then push that water out and eat all the good stuff that's in there. So good, good, good. Okay, so behaviors of the gray whale. And so gray whales do a pretty good amount of moving around, and what we look for first and foremost are the spouts from those gray whales. And so right now, especially, these animals are swimming on this huge migration, and so you can think of it like they're jogging for 2 months straight. And when you and I go jogging, you're breathing pretty regularly, your body needs oxygen, and the same thing for these whales. They're breathing very routinely. And so the typical spout or blow pattern that we see from a gray whale is they'll spout, go underwater for about 15 seconds, spout, big one, go underwater for about 15 seconds, and then another one, big spout, and then usually they'll dive for about 5 minutes or so. And so a typical gray whale might spout 4 or 5 times and then go underwater for that 5-minute dive. The spouts from a full-grown gray whale is about 15 feet tall, and so that's what we look for first. Usually on that last dive, we'll see some kind of a deeper dive, and so a lot of times we'll see them kind of arch their back as they go underwater, and if we're really lucky, we'll see their tail come out of the water like this, and it helps kind of push them down. So gray whales are covered in blubber, and it's actually very buoyant. You can think about wearing a life jacket and you jump in the water. you know, it helps you float. The fat or the blubber on these animals is kind of like a life jacket. And so they don't always just like sink straight to the bottom if they want to. They're actually kind of neutrally buoyant. So they have to work to get down a little bit. But by throwing their big tail up in the air, they're using gravity to kind of help push them down. And so you throw your tail up, and the rest of that whale is going to go down to the bottom. I think about it like if you're going to jump in the water, right? You don't just like jump. You do kind of a whoa, same idea. You just use your body's weight and energy to help kind of propel themselves down. So that would be a spout and the dive. Those are the most common sightings that we see year-round here. You know, gray whales are breathing a lot, and so that's what we typically see. Now, a couple other really cool behaviors that we see, a little bit in the spring, but a lot in the summertime, it's called a spy hop. So again, pretend that my arm is the level of the ocean out there. Sometimes a gray whale will come up and just kind of look around, you know, try to get its bearings a little bit. I see it a lot from young whales, kind of in the May, June time when they're first coming to Depot Bay. Maybe they're going to be spending the summer here, but they're kind of orienting themselves to our bay right here. And so there were many mornings where I'll be right down here washing our windows in the morning, and a gray whale will be right behind me. And it's a little one, and it's stuck its head out, and it's like, what is that guy doing? Like, that is so weird, right? And so they're checking us out a lot of times. We see a lot of spy hopping out there by that red buoy as well, that half-mile buoy, so pretty cool. Now, another cool behavior that we see in the summertime here on the Oregon coast and a lot up in Alaska, and even Washington, they see this a lot too in some bays, is the behavior that gray whales do called sharking. Now, we will get reports at the parks here all the time, like, oh my goodness, there's a shark here, and it's attacking a whale, you gotta come help. First, park rangers can't really help in that situation, but 99 times out of 100, what's happening is it's actually a gray whale feeding in one of our bays here along the Oregon coast. Remember how they eat? Remember how they dive down to the bottom and scrape up the sediment like this? Okay, so let's pretend that you are a gray whale and you're feeding in maybe 10 feet of water, which is very typical. Gray whales will feed extremely close to shore sometimes. And so think you're a whale, you're in 10 feet of water. Now you can't really do a big dive. If you're 40 feet long, 10 feet of water, I mean, that's not gonna work, right? And so what the whale actually does is they actually roll on their sides and just kind of scoot through the water like this. Now imagine that this is the water level. What do you see? You see like a shark fin chasing a whale, right? Oh my goodness, we're gonna need a bigger boat. No, it's okay. It's just the whale, its tail is just following it around, that's fine. It's a gray whale sharking or scooping up all the sediment here on the seafloor. So that's a really cool behavior that we see right here in Depot Bay, and I know I've seen it all up and down the Oregon coast in different bays sometimes where the whale is just looking for a snack, and so that's very, very common. Now, a final behavior that everybody gets super excited about is the breach, right? When a gray whale jumps out of the water. Now, gray whales, they're not like dolphins. They don't come out and do like flips or back flips or anything like that. Gray whales typically do kind of a three-quarter body jump. Occasionally they'll come straight up and down and go back down, making a big splash, but gray whales do breach. Don't ask me why, but I very rarely see a gray whale breach just one time. Usually gray whales will breach 3 or 4 times, if not more. You kind of never know. But if you are watching the ocean and you see a huge splash and you're like, ooh, that was different, keep your eyes over there, because if it's a gray whale, it's probably going to jump again. And it's really, really exciting when they do. So I got a really cool picture of a breach I want to show you real quick. Here's a picture of a gray whale breaching. That's one of those more vertical ones I was talking about. So really, really cool. Look at this one. You can see all the barnacles kind of growing. Where's my hand? Here we go, on its head. And then you see all of this white. That's just its natural pigmentation. It's pretty cool. So yeah, gray whales do jump. Very, very cool. So the last thing I want to talk about this morning while we're in the building here is their migration, right? That's what we're watching right now. And so gray whales go on the largest migration out of any mammal on planet Earth. The gray whales that we are looking for right now and have been spotting over the last several weeks, they swim almost 13,000 miles every year to do this big migration. Now people ask, well, why do they do this? It really comes down to making more gray whales, enabling their species to survive. And so when a gray whale mother gives birth to these really cute little baby whales, little calves, this baby whale, this calf, has hardly any fat on its body, very little blubber when it's first born. And so if we look out at our water, right now it's about 52 degrees. This little baby, if it was born here, would not survive in that cold of water. Just like me or you, if we jumped in that water, we would last 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe, without any kind of a wetsuit or a dry suit, something to keep us warm, right? And so these gray whales, they swim all the way down to Baja, Mexico every winter, so that when they give birth, the water that they're in is about 80 degrees. It's a nice, warm, protected area that this little baby can spend the first month, maybe month and a half of its life in a safe area. Now, Mama's down there, and she's fine. She's very warm. She's got all this blubber. But ultimately, in Mexico, where they are, the water is so warm that there's no plankton in the water. It's super clear. And if you've ever been someplace down in the tropics, maybe you've gone to Hawaii before and gone swimming, or down along the equator someplace, beautiful, crystal clear water, really nice for swimming in, but it's clear because there's very little plankton in that water. You can see a really, really long way. Here in Oregon, our water is very murky most of the year, and it's because it's full of phytoplankton, or tiny little plant plankton that's in the water that just fills it up with nutrients, right? And so these whales, to find enough nutrients, they cannot stay in Mexico. There's no food there, right? So they have to go all the way back north, usually to Alaska, to find enough food to survive. And so they'll go up to Alaska, feed all summer, gain a ton of weight, just so that they can do that journey again. So the main migration, let's start right now. We're in April. All of the gray whales are headed back north, either to here in the Northwest or up to Alaska someplace. They'll be up there May, June, July, August, September, October. So what is that, 7 months? And so in about November, all of the whales start leaving, start working their way south. And then usually by mid-December to late December, early January, we see most of the gray whales headed south to Mexico, where they're going to spend end of January, most of February. They'll be there breeding or giving birth. Now, if a female gray whale is there this year and she does not give birth, she's becoming pregnant in February. And if you're a male gray whale, you have the opportunity one time every year to pass on your DNA, to pass on your genetic code. And so all of the males go to Mexico as well to try to ensure that their genetics move on to the next generation. And so all the whales are breeding or giving birth in February. And then by March, they're kind of done, and they start going back to Alaska again to find more food. And so March, April, May, we're watching whales swim north. By June, if you're a gray whale, you're basically in the neighborhood that you're going to be the rest of the year, of the summer, I should say. And so if a gray whale arrives here in Depot Bay in June, it's usually going to stick around Oregon, Washington, maybe British Columbia a little bit. Most likely that gray whale, if we saw it on June 15th, is not going to go all the way up to Alaska. It might, but they usually will stay kind of in their general area. Same thing goes as if you find a whale in Alaska in June, it's probably going to stay there all summer long. So cool. I think I got it all there. Anatomy, we talked about their overall body size, their shape, all that kind of good stuff. We talked a little bit about their behaviors. Good stuff, and we just wrapped up with their migration a little bit. Let me take a look in the comments here and see if there's any other questions that came in here. So let me scroll up here. Okay. There's a quick question I saw. What do the babies eat? Good question. And so while the mothers and the calves are down in Mexico, they're mammals. One of the things that all mammals do is they drink milk when they're young, right? And so the mother will nurse this calf. She has mammary glands back kind of where an udder would be on a cow. And so the baby will kind of get in position, and the mother will actually squirt the milk into the baby's face. And so the baby doesn't suckle really in any way, but just like all mammals, we drink milk when we're little, and we gain weight and gain energy very quickly. And so remember I said earlier that the babies weigh about 2,000 pounds when they're first born. And so after a month, they're about doubled in weight. They're about 4,000 pounds. And so they're drinking milk from their mother. They drink about 50 gallons of milk every day. That's a lot of milk, right? And gray whale milk is super thick. If you and I go to the grocery store, maybe you buy 2%, maybe you buy whole milk if you're nuts, right? Or maybe you have a little one. And you drink whole milk to try to, get your kid bigger and stronger. Milk is very good at that. Gray whale milk is about 54% fat. It's super thick. It's like cream cheese. And the little babies, they have baleen in their mouth too. This little model doesn't really show it. But the baby gray whale has baleen just like their parents. And the milk just kind of is floating in the water, and the baby is kind of lapping it up, and it sticks to their baleen, and they're able to ingest it. So it's estimated that a gray whale baby is gaining around 4 pounds every hour. So think about that. It's just incredible how fast they're growing. So let's take a look. Oh, there's another good question. How long do gray whales live? And so a gray whale, an average age, we'll say about 70 years. And so that's we'll say that's an average. They live a really long time. Now, I'll just kind of tell you how they figured that out. And so remember we talked about their little ear hole someplace on the model? It's right in there someplace. Gray whales, they produce ear wax also, just like us. But you and I can kind of clean our ears out from time to time if we want. Gray whales cannot do that. Gray whales and a lot of other whale species produce wax on a cycle, almost like an annual cycle. You can think of it like a tree. Every year it grows a ring, right? And so whales do something very similar. Most whale species have a summertime feeding season when their body is creating a lot of nutrients. They're eating a lot of nutrients, I should say. They're gaining a lot of weight. Their body's like going on all cylinders, right? And then they'll have a winter season where they go on a migration. They're not eating during that time, and so their body is conserving energy, and so they don't create a whole bunch of earwax. And so they can actually, when a whale passes away, they can actually pull this plug of earwax out, and they're able to dissect it, and they can count back. It's pretty cool. Good question. How old do whales live, the gray whales live, and how do they know? Good question. Let's see really quick. Emily Alvalord, have you seen any whales today? No, not yet. Sorry, we're watching. Cool. Well, I see there's a few more questions coming in. I will be sure to look back through the comments here really quick and see if there's any more that I have not answered. I see one thing behind me I wanted to show you too, just because I think it's amazing. So this is a plastic model of a human vertebrate, right? This is in our back someplace. You can see the little spinal cord spot right there. And this, it fits in my hand. Oops. Right like that, right? So here's a typical adult human vertebrae. Not a real one, just a model, of course. But here is that same exact bone from a gray whale. This is that same gray whale that washed up at Beverly Beach a few years ago. And you can just look at this. I mean, it's a huge bone. It is so hard for us to kind of get a perspective or a scale when we're looking out at these animals in the water. You know, we'll see this little out on the horizon and people are like, is that it? You know, and sadly, a lot of times that is whale watching. You know, we'll just see evidence that there's a whale out there. When a whale does wash up and scientists are able to go in and students are able to go and see it up close and personal, you really get a sense of scale for how big these animals really are. And so I hope that you're able to come into our visitor center in the future, the next several months, or maybe, you know, in the next several years. And I want you to come and I want you to see this bone. I want you to feel it. I want you to touch it. This was a real animal's bone. And it just kind of helps you kind of put it in perspective in your mind. Like, oh wow, you know, these animals are huge. And in the summertime, when there's some here feeding, there might be 15 different whales in the bay. And you start to realize like, oh wow, there's a whole lot out there that we didn't even think about at first. So come and see this for yourself if you can sometime. So very, very cool. And I would be in big trouble if I did not wrap up my program by giving you all your official certified whale watchers here in Depot Bay. I'm going to make all of you some honorary junior rangers for today. So thanks for hanging out with me. That was a little longer than I anticipated. Sorry about that, but I doubt that any whales jumped while I was doing that. It's pretty slow here right now. So let me get the camera back out over the water. I'm going to look through the comments real quick and see if there's any questions I forgot to answer or have not answered yet. And thanks again for being here. Again, my name's Luke, Oregon State Parks Ranger. So happy that you're here with us for these whale watching adventures every week. And so stay tuned. It should be a great few weeks. All right, good morning everybody. This is Ranger Luke here at the Whale Watching Center again. I just saw a couple more questions I wanted to address real quick. Nancy says, hey, you didn't mention skim feeding or kelping. And let me show you that real quick. Let me bring you right back here. And so sometimes there will be some kind of a plankton bloom or a larval bloom on the surface of the water here. And I think the most common thing is a crab larva that will bloom like crazy and float up to the top. And so sometimes we do see the whales right at the top of the water, kind of like opening and closing their mouth over and over again. And a lot of times that's right in a kelp bed where the crab larvae are spawning or kind of reproducing. And so good question there. And I would be in big trouble if I didn't give you all a high five, because you are awesome. So thank you very much. Let's go back out here to the water and see if we can't see any whales in real life. We've got some rain kind of moving through right here pretty hard and a little bit of fog. But we'll just have to kind of be patient today and see if we get lucky. I did get a text during the middle of that little presentation that I got a package at my office today, and the only thing that I have ordered in a while is that microphone. And so I'm hoping that that is the microphone that has arrived. So tomorrow morning, if you check us out, you will be able to hear the sounds of the ocean and all the other birds and other animals making noise out here. So I'm very excited to get that set up and share the sounds of the ocean there with you. A couple other things. Do the killer whales eat the gray whales, or do they just hunt them for sport? And so Pedalpediacs, that's a really good question. This time of year, gray whales are being actively hunted by orcas, certain kinds of orcas called transient orcas. Now, a lot of times it's the calves that are attacked. The adult gray whale is usually too big for orcas to attack. They're just like triple their size. But the gray whale calf is much easier for them to attack if they can separate it from their mother. And so a lot of times what we'll see, we don't see it a lot here. Most of the orca attacks happen down in California, specifically kind of around Monterey Bay. But usually the orcas will attack the gray whales in that area. And sadly, a lot of baby gray whales will pass away this spring due to predation like that. They don't eat the whole animal usually. And so there's not a lot of that animal is consumed. It's typical that they will find gray whales that the orcas have removed the tongue from that animal. It's a huge organ, it's got lots of tissue, and it's easier to digest than a whole bunch of blubber and fat that's usually surrounding those gray whales. So good question. I think that was all the questions there. So thanks again. It's about 11:15 here in Depot Bay. In about a half an hour, I want to talk to everybody about the iNaturalist app and the Backyard BioBlitz that's happening right now. And so that's a pretty cool thing that I'm actually going to be participating in here starting at about noon. And we'll talk more about that in about 15 minutes. But if you got a little bit of time, you can just Google it right now, the iNaturalist app and the Backyard BioBlitz that's happening today, kind of here as we commemorate Earth Day. And so stay tuned for that. I'm going to go grab my cup of coffee, and I'm going to come back and stare into the fog here with you for a few more minutes. Well, good morning again, everybody. This is Luke, Park Ranger here at the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center. If you're just joining us, we've got a kind of a storm moving in here today. We've got some rain on the windows. But yes, the Coast Guard just went out to go do some more drills out there in the fog. So, yeah, still kind of waiting. We might get lucky and have a whale come in close, but this I'm not holding my breath right now. It's very, very foggy out there. It'll be very difficult to see unless one comes in literally just a few hundred feet away. So in about 20 minutes or so, I want to go over the iNaturalist app. You can put it on your phone and participate in a BioBlitz that's going on today. So if you have that app, you can kind of download that and take a look at that if you'd like, or just learn about it. If you're unsure, I'm going to talk about it a little bit and talk about how you can participate in a citizen science project that's happening right now, today, as we speak. So, pretty cool. Awesome. Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying, hey, we're posting this in our online classroom. That's great. And so, yeah, hopefully you'll be able to get some learning out of that little lesson that just happened there. And if you are a teacher, feel free to email me and we can try to set up a time to do a little program like that. And so I want to say thanks to Fufu and Friends. She is one of the teachers who reached out to me pretty early on and said, hey, can we do something like that? So yeah, that's awesome. Really, really fun. And so happy to do it again at some point. And then I see a question from John Parsons. Are there any countries or tribes hunting gray whales? Dad, why do you got to ask hard questions? All right. So gray whales, this population, they're not any kind of an endangered species. And so there is still some hunting that happens on this population of gray whales that we see. The closest to us here in the Pacific Northwest, there are some tribes that do actively hunt gray whales every few years. And so I've heard a little bit about a new hunt that might be coming up even as soon as this year. So you can do some internet search and learn about some of the tribes and some of the practices that they do right here in the Pacific Northwest. There is still some whaling done on this population up in Russia, but not a whole lot. And so there is a little bit of hunting that happens on this population, but not a huge amount. You know, if we go back in time, we'll say the early 1900s, there was fewer than maybe 2,000 or less of these gray whales. And it's actually a pretty amazing conservation story. So whaling used to be a huge industry, right? It was a source of oil. It was a source of food for a lot of people and places before we had modern petroleum, right? And so whaling was much more common if we go back in time a century ago. So the whaling industry had figured out this gray whale migration, for lack of a better word, and they used to all go to Baja, Mexico in the wintertime to harvest as many gray whales as they could. And so it almost made this whole population go extinct. But there were some people back then down in Mexico who realized, like, this is a really bad idea. You know, you guys are going to literally exterminate this whole population. And so the Mexican officials stepped in and closed the breeding lagoons. Like, you guys, you cannot come and harvest whales here. You just can't. And so this is way before any of the International Whaling Commission stuff or any of the other protections that would come into place much later. You know, like 50 and 60 years later, there were these international standards kind of put in place that protects marine mammals. So today, those breeding lagoons, thanks to the efforts of those folks way ahead of their time, those breeding lagoons are, I believe, a World Heritage Site and just a true testament to the conservation and the foresight of the people who were there a long time ago who realized that if we kept things the way we were going back then, these whales wouldn't be around anymore. So since that time, these gray whales, their population is back up to around 25,000. And it's estimated that this is about where it was before the whaling started on these animals here? So good question. All right. And so I think that's it. Dad, no more questions. That's a rule. We're going to talk later. All right, everybody. Well, I'm just joking. You can ask questions. So thanks again for being here. Again, my name is Luke with Oregon State Parks, and we're coming to you live from the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center. Today we're just watching a little bit of rain and some waves out here on the water. Very, very foggy for the time being, so hopefully this fog will lift. I'm going to try to dry out my windows here, and maybe we'll be able to see out a little bit. And I'll be back in about 20 minutes or so, and we'll go over that iNaturalist app if you want to participate in this today's kind of Earth Day BioBlitz. So thanks for all the kind words and all the questions. I'm glad it seems like a lot of people like that little presentation, and I'll be back here in a few minutes. Good morning again, everybody. This is Luke, Park Ranger here at the Oregon State Parks at the Whale Watch Center. It looks like our connectivity is kind of dropping off here for a few minutes, so hopefully it returns to its full strength here. Again, we're on a cell phone tower, and so sometimes we drop off here for a few minutes, but I don't think I lost it totally there. So if you're just joining us, it's still kind of a cloudy day here in Depot Bay. We have not spotted any whales so far today, but we've got another couple hours of looking here. In about 10 minutes, I'll be back, and we're going to talk about the iNaturalist app for your smartphone and a part of a citizen science project that you can do right now at home. So I'll be back in just a few minutes. Again, we're coming to you live from Depot Bay, Oregon, as a part of our 2020 Spring Whale Watch Encore. We'll be right back. Well, good morning again, everybody. This is Luke, Park Ranger here at Oregon State Parks at the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center. So still no whales. It's a pretty stormy day here on the central Oregon coast. And so we've been doing a few other things today. If you're just joining us, about a little over an hour ago, I did about a half-hour interpretive program talking all about gray whales, their anatomy and behaviors, all that kind of good stuff. And so if you're just joining us and you want to learn a little bit about a little more in depth about what we're looking for, you can rewind today's feed. I'll be sure to timestamp that program. And so tomorrow or this afternoon after the video uploads to YouTube, you'll be able to scroll down to the comments and just go straight to when I started talking about the whales and behaviors, all that kind of good stuff. I wanted to take a few minutes and just kind of cover one of the apps that I like to interact with here sometimes. And today's kind of a stormy day. I can't see where I really want to look, so I'm just kind of watching down here in the tide pools and on the seawall for some different animals that we can take a look at and observe. And one of the apps that we use is called the iNaturalist app. And let me actually just pull it up here. I just got a new work phone, so it's a little goofy. The iNaturalist app, let me kind of show you what it looks like here maybe. It is this one right there, iNaturalist. And if you click on it, it'll take you kind of to a home page basically. And here's my new phone. It hasn't really updated my old profile. And so one of the things that you can do on here is add wildlife observations to it. And so if we wanted to make an observation of an animal, and I think this is a fun thing you can do even in your backyard, is just kind of help catalog the animals that you are seeing. And you're contributing to this huge citizen science project. We use this a lot here on the Oregon coast when we help participate in species inventories, or they're called BioBlitzes, at some of the marine reserves located up and down the Oregon coast. The closest one to us is the Otter Rock Marine Reserve and Marine Garden. It's just south of here. And actually on last week's video feed, Ranger Paul, I think, talked about it a little bit while he was doing the cameras. But one of the fun things to do, get back into my phone here, is if you see an animal and you want to log it and you want to kind of remember what you saw. So say we were going to catalog this animal right here. And so that is a cormorant. And I want to say that that is a Brandt's cormorant. Earlier we had some pelagic cormorants sitting out there with it. There was two separate species, but I'm not 100% sure. So what you would do is, you know there's an animal out there. You want to catalog it. Go into your app and click on, let's see if it'll focus here, observe. So it'll ask you, hey, do you want to take a picture of it? Can you take a picture of it? Well, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to zoom in with the camera here and take a picture of it using my screen right here. I'll be right back. Okay. So there we go. I just took a picture of our bird. I'll bring you back out here. There's our fancy picture there of that bird. Go ahead and hit next. It's going to ask you, hey, can we look at your photos? Yes. And so it has the picture uploaded right up there. What did you see? And so we're going to look at that in a minute. So it logs the date and the time, the 22nd, 11:51. It knows where I am, the Whale Watching Center here in Depot Bay. All that kind of good stuff. And let's see, what did you see? So I know it's a cormorant. Cormorants. And so we can go in here and take a little bit different look. And so they're just kind of grouped into one big family there, cormorants and shags. And so You can then share that right down here at the bottom, share. And then it takes a second and it uploads it. And so one of the things that I upload here a lot are our oyster catchers. And I know that we have shared those with you on the cameras here over the last few days and weeks. Oyster catchers, there's not a whole lot on the Oregon coast. I think the latest numbers there's like 100 or less, or maybe it's 200. Either way, it's not very many. And so it's fun to catalog those oyster catchers here. There's a few photos I have where there's probably close to 20 of them at a time in the tide pools here right below us. And so it's neat to kind of document that, share that photo with the iNaturalist app. And it's just kind of a neat time capsule, if you will. And so over the coming years and decades, scientists and researchers will be able to look back on these archives and we'll be able to see if there's any increases or decreases in populations, or at least photos that we're able to get. So it's kind of a fun thing to do if you're at home. Maybe you've got some little ones and you're trying to figure out some kind of a science lesson with your kids. I know a lot of parents right now have become teachers all of a sudden as well. And so it's a fun way to kind of interact, and just you could have them go in your backyard and catalog all the animals or insects, birds that they see just in your own backyard. It's kind of fun to sit and do that. I know here on the coast right now, not only is it whale migration season, but there are millions of birds migrating along the coast right now as well. So we've seen a lot of sea and shore birds flying out over the water lately. And I know that there's a lot of inland birds kind of moving through our area as well. So pretty cool. All right, everybody. So it is just about 11:50 a.m. our time here. And so, yeah, let me know if you got any more questions or comments. I have not seen any whales yet. It's pretty tough whale watching conditions right now, to be honest, but we'll be here. We'll give it a shot. So thanks again, everybody, for being here, and we'll be back here in a little bit. Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Luke, Park Ranger with Oregon State Parks here at the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center. Today we should be called the Depot Bay Fog and Wind and Rain Watching Center. Pretty tough day to look for whales out there over the ocean right now. Again, pretty stormy conditions, and we're only able to see about 1/3 of a mile out into the ocean right now. So I'm watching here in the inner bay. We might get lucky and see a whale come in, but it would be pretty rare, to be honest, right now. But we'll be here for another couple hours watching and crossing our fingers. If you're just joining us, I see Linda is here from Lincoln City. Hello. And Desiree says, hey, shout out to the iNaturalist app. I use it a lot. You might want to mention the junior version, the Seek app. It's a simpler interface for kids, and you can upload it to your iNaturalist account. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. That's another version of the app which is a little easier to use, especially if you've got smaller ones that are with you helping out. So thank you for that. Earlier today, about 1.5 hours ago, I did a little interpretive program. You can rewind and look at that while we were kind of waiting for this storm system to pass through. Today I think it's supposed to be kind of like this the rest of the day, but tomorrow looks pretty good, and so I'm optimistic that tomorrow we'll be able to see back out where we want to look and see some, some gray whales swimming by us here. I just got distracted over on the Oregon State Parks Facebook page. They just uploaded a really awesome tide pool video that they shot a couple days ago down in Sunset Bay. And so if you are looking for something else to watch today, feel free to jump over to that Facebook page and you can check out a really cool tide pool video that Ranger Ryder did down there. It's awesome. It's really, really cool. Tide pooling is one of my favorite things to do here as the spring turns into summer, and just go out and look at all the cool little critters that they're living their life right here in this super harsh environment. So yeah, and I hopefully will have my microphone all hooked up later this afternoon, so tomorrow morning I'll be able to share these ocean sounds here with you. I'm pretty sure that's what just came in the mail today, so excited to share with you the ocean sounds, especially on a storm day like this. I can imagine, and I know I'm the same at my house, like when I watch these videos, sometimes when I'm not working and other rangers are doing these live streams, I love just putting it on in the room someplace and just watching occasionally and listening, but I cannot wait to hear the ocean, while I'm sitting at my house watching the feeds here. So, oh, I do see something out there in the water. Check this out. Maybe it's some pirates coming in. What is this? Oh, just joking. It's the Coast Guard. They're coming back in. They were out doing some drills. You can see it's raining pretty heavily here. Let me see if I can't get focused out here to where they are. Yeah, this is a pretty wet, miserable day to be out on a boat, but this storm system is coming in. I think the winds are supposed to reach about 35 miles an hour here a little later this afternoon over here, so pretty blustery day here on the Oregon coast. So I see a question. Era says, every day at the ocean is a great day, some just better than others. Era, I agree. Every day here at the ocean is pretty amazing. So, and Martha says, what Facebook page was that tide pool video on? Martha, it's on the Oregon State Parks Facebook page right now, and I imagine later today that they will upload it here on YouTube as well, just because I know not everybody has Facebook. And so, yeah, go check it out. It's about 7 minutes long, I think. But it's a really cool video, shows you some of the common things in the tide pools there. If you have not been to Shore Acres before, definitely plan a trip there sometime in the future. As things get reopened and everybody starts traveling again. I love that area personally in the fall. It's just beautiful. There's whales, there's tide pools, there's some amazing scenery there. It's just a really, really beautiful section of the Oregon coast. It's west of Coos Bay. It's kind of, you got to drive out and drive back. It's a little bit off the 101, but it is so worth it. It is just a beautiful section of the coast, just very, very dynamic. And that section of the coast, actually, you can see blue whales from time to time looking way out over the deep reef, deep canyons there just off of the shore. So very, very cool area for nature watching in general. So, well, we can watch this Coast Guard boat come back in here for a moment. These folks have been out there training this morning. Let's go zoom in, see how bundled up everybody is today. Oh yeah, everybody's looking pretty wet. They all got their survival suits on and helmets and all that stuff, just to be safe out there. So again, these are the 47-foot rescue boats stationed here out of Depot Bay. There are 2 of them that operate here out of our harbor, and they're out here patrolling our seas, keeping all the mariners safe. And just thank you to them for doing what they do, because they really are a crucial part of keeping everybody safe here out over the water. So there they go. That boat, that ship, is 47 feet long, and you can look at that harbor. It's very narrow. You can see where the waves are crashing on the left side there. The harbor is only 50 feet wide, so 47-foot boat coming through a 50-foot hole in the wall. That's pretty cool. Their nickname, while they're stationed here in Depot Bay, is those Coast Guard members are known as the Hole in the Wall Gang. And so pretty cool history of those folks here over the last many decades. So, all right, well, we got some more bird action down here. We got some gulls preening itself here. And so very pretty in their own way, I guess you could say. And then I heard the oyster catchers a little earlier today, but I don't see any in front of me right now. They're so well camouflaged here. And then there's one of our cormorants is back. That one is a pelagic cormorant, a little smaller. And you can see during the breeding season, those birds, they get a white patch on their lower body there. Pretty cool. Pretty little birds. But I know we're not the bird camera, we're the whale camera, so let me zoom out here where we might see a whale. So, all right, everybody, well, stay tuned. Let's see. Oh, see some more questions came in here. Jill says, hello from Tarrytown, New York. Yep, good morning. We've got a whole bunch of New York folks here with us today. So hope you're all having a good day, staying safe over there. And Locke says, I know it's rare to see orcas along the coast, but if possible, now is the time of year to see them intercept the baby gray whales. We see a lot of orca activity here on the central Oregon coast in May. There's kind of an unwritten rule that around Mother's Day weekend there will be some orcas in the Newport area. I mean, it's not always on Mother's Day, but it just seems to be that time of year. There's usually orcas somewhere along the central coast, but they really range all over the place. Any locations you recommend increase my chances of seeing them? Any viewpoints or bays along the coast? Yeah, so again, we would be watching for these transient orcas, and I wish I could tell you, hey, if you go to Garibaldi on these days, you might see some orcas. It is so rare, and it's so hard to predict them. My recommendation would be to kind of, if you live on the coast, just join your community's Facebook page or any other kind of a social networking page, because when someone sees orcas, it's usually put up on social media pretty quickly, and you're able to kind of maybe guess where they're going. But yeah, it's so hard to kind of pinpoint. when and where the orcas are going to appear. So I really hope that we get to see them on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday over the next few weeks, because they are amazing when they come in close. And that video that we got a few weeks ago during the Whale Watch Week, just incredible. I mean, to have those orcas in that close, really, really, really cool. So, yeah, orcas, very rare. If you have to see orcas, I would go up to the Salish Sea up in Puget Sound later in the summer, when everything kind of reopens here. And there are a lot of whale watch companies and tour boats and stuff that operate, and their specific goal is to find orcas up there. Those are the resident orcas, or the SRKWs, the Southern Resident Killer Whales. And those ones are primarily targeting salmon, but I watched a really great lesson, thanks Glenn for sending it to me, about the orcas up in the Salish Sea and how the transient orcas are becoming a little more common up there as well. And so if you gotta go see orcas, I would head up there later in the summer or early fall. It'd be a good place to go see orcas. So. And Steve says, happy belated birthday, Jill. Maybe Luke can give you a birthday shout out. I love birthday shout outs, so happy belated birthday, Jill. Yeah, if it's your birthday, let me know. You definitely get a shout out or a high five or something. So, all right, everybody. Well, stay tuned. We've got a couple more hours of staring out the window here, and we'll see if anything cool swims by. So until then, I'm going to turn the mic off and just let you watch the waves for a little bit, and I'll be back here in a little bit. Well, hello again, everybody. This is Luke, Park Ranger here with Oregon State Parks. Coming to you live from the Depot Bay Whale Watching Center. There was like a split second when I zoomed out to that half-mile buoy. I was like, oh, it's getting a little nicer. Yeah, it is not getting a little nicer. It's raining super hard now. You can see it covering our windows. And so we'll have to just kind of wait out this rainstorm here. Hopefully it doesn't last too long and we'll be able to see out just a little bit. Planning on still being here for another hour and a little bit. If it gets so terrible that we can't see much of anything, we might cut the stream short a little bit today. The weather is just not very conducive to really any kind of wildlife viewing right now, but we'll give this rainstorm 15 minutes or so. If it is still just pouring at 1 o'clock, we might end the stream a little bit early today, but if it slows up, we'll keep the cameras rolling here. I know a lot of people just enjoy looking at the ocean. So Liz says, my birthday was last Friday. My significant other made me a card with beautiful whale pictures and recorded whales singing. Probably the best birthday card ever. That sounds like a really nice birthday card. And happy birthday to you last week, Liz, as well. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. It is just kind of a stormy Wednesday afternoon here on the Central Oregon coast, very spring-like today. If you have not done so already, go ahead and hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe to this Oregon State Parks YouTube channel. I know a lot of you have already. If you're new here, you can turn on your notifications by clicking on that bell, and you'll be notified every time we go live. And so it's a nice little way. I think mine pops up in my email. It says, hey, Oregon State Parks is live, and it shows me the video title, lets me know that that's all working. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and stay tuned. We'll see if the weather lifts here, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky and see something swim by today. So until then, stay tuned. We'll be back in a little bit. Well, good afternoon there, whale watchers. This is Luke, Park Ranger here at the Depot Bay Whale Center. We are going to cut the stream an hour short here today. It's just non-stop rain at this point. Oops, just kicked the camera there too. We can't see anything really out there at all. So we'll give it just a couple more minutes here and then we'll be shutting the camera down here for the afternoon. Just a reminder, we will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. The weather forecast for tomorrow looks way better than it does right now. The weather for tomorrow looks way better than it is today. And so I am optimistic that we'll have a much better day of looking around for gray whales and everything else swimming around out there. Thank you to everybody for joining us today. It's still been a fun day, just kind of watching these waves and the storm kind of rolling in here. If you're just joining us, at about 10:30 this morning, I did about a half-hour long interpretive program. I turned the cameras inside the building here and we talked all about these gray whales, their anatomy, some of their behaviors, and their migration that we see every year. And so that was a lot of fun. I know there was a lot of folks who beamed us into their classrooms there for a little while, so that's a lot of fun knowing that we're able to help teach a lot of kids about what's going on here on the Oregon coast. And so just want to say thanks again for sticking with us here today for a few hours. Again, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do that. And if you haven't liked this video, please do that. And go check out that video that was just put up on the Oregon State Parks Facebook page. I think I saw it on our Instagram account also. It's a really cool tide pool video that was shot down at Sunset Bay pretty recently. And so really cool content coming out. I hope that you're enjoying some of the videos and interactive features that are happening right now on the Oregon State Parks social media outlets. It's a lot of fun being able to be part of that again. So again, if you want to keep up to date with all of the COVID-19 closures and how all of these different things are affecting your local Oregon State Parks, feel free to go check out that Oregon State Parks website, www.oregonstateparks.org. You can keep up to date with what's going on, all the latest and greatest. And you can also do some research on all of the parks in this amazing state that we live in. You'll be able to look around and maybe discover a park that you haven't been to before. And so it can be a lot of fun trying to plan your future vacations here. So again, thanks for being here very, very much. I really appreciate it. I hope you had fun. I'll turn the microphone off and give you about one more minute here and then I'll be shutting it off here for the day. So until then, have a great afternoon or a great evening or a great morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Stay safe, and I will be back with you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time.